Right, okay, that actually worked. I wasn't sure whether that was actually going to work properly or not. As those who can tell that are watching, I am not Carl. Let's just say Carl's had quite a lot going on, and I know, yeah, got
Shocking.
a bit of a change in everything. But yes, Carl had a mixture of things going on today, and also I'm pretty sure he wouldn't have been in great mood after Leeds' result yesterday. But me and Annie are here to talk all about the football this weekend. So first of all, Annie, how are you doing? Before we talk about Bristol City, I'm sure.
To be fair, even with the Bristol City result factored in, I'm not so bad. Uh, yeah, life's pretty good. So just
Fair enough.
yeah, not bad at the moment. How are you, Michael?
I'm not doing too bad. I must admit, I'm quite glad Championship football's back because I'm not a big fan of
Exactly.
international football. Tournaments are a different beast. I quite like tournament football when it comes to like the Euros or the World Cup, but when it comes to qualifiers and friendlies, I just cannot get less motivated for all of that stuff. But as you know, I've had 2 weeks to stew on us getting battered at Coventry and then them lot up the road winning the Carabao Cup. But that's happened. You move on. We move on to the rest of the season. So we'll see
Can
what
I just
happens.
say the only entertaining thing about the international breaks recently have been San Marino's Twitter account or the football Twitter account.
They're
That's the
usually
only
very
thing.
good, aren't they? To be fair,
Or
they are
I think
usually
it's a fan
hilarious.
account or something like that. Proper dedicated fan. Only entertaining thing about the international break.
Well, to be honest, whether it's a fan count or not, I don't care. It's bloody hilarious either way. I absolutely adore it. They just look like they've won the World Cup when there's going, yes, we've scored a goal.
And did you see them? They lost like 4-1 to Liechtenstein, I think. Or like no, it was either Romania or
I
Andorra,
haven't seen the tweet, but I
and it
think I know where you're going to go with this.
and it was just expletive. It was first goal expletive, second goal expletive. It was perfect. It was like the Frank Lampard meme. First goal's a corner, second goal's jammy, third goal's deflected. It's a lucky goal. The jammy goal is brilliant. Yeah.
Oh,
Anyway, sorry.
no, to be fair, I mean that's the thing. When you know that when you're used to supporting a team where it doesn't go as well, sometimes you've got to learn to just have a sense of humor and just completely and utterly laugh it off. So we shall wait and see what happens with that one. All right, let's get into it. Let's get into the championship returning at the weekend, and I guess there's only really one place to start. I think so. We'll do with the battle for automatic promotion, and then obviously we'll go through the playoff race, relegation battle, yada yada yada. And obviously I'll do Sunderland's game at the end. Obviously we'll talk about Bristol City quite early on because they're quite relevant this weekend to the battle at the top of the table. But let's start with the Friday night game. Sheffield United 3, Coventry City 1. Did you watch this game on Friday?
No, I did not, but I heard it was in a way quite similar to our game, which we'll talk about later. But uh, yeah,
Well,
brilliant
yeah,
from Sheffield United.
absolutely. Well, I can tell you, I did watch the game. So it was, to be fair, as everybody who's watched me knows, I've been quite critical of Sheffield United's performances this season. And Annie, a few weeks ago, had experience of what I was on about when Bristol City played Sheffield United. But credit where it's due. They were really good this game. It wouldn't surprise me if this was their best performance of the season. And to be fair to them, Coventry, as much as Ant will probably try and claim otherwise, Coventry are no mugs at all. They obviously battered Sunderland in their previous game. They've shot right up the league. They'd won something like I think it's 10 of the last 12 prior to going to Bramall Lane. So but no, Sheffield United were bang on it right from the first whistle. Coventry absolutely could not live with them. Quite fittingly, of course, the guy who scored the first goal, Gustavo Hamer's free kick, which is, I don't know if Annie's seen it or not, but is a peach of a goal. It is literally so accurately hit. The swerve's brilliant. The angle's brilliant. It just evades the keeper. It looks like, and the best free kicks are the ones where it looks like it's going to the post, but at the very last second, it swerves into the inside of the post. Um, I like the fact he didn't celebrate. I like the fact he had a bit of class about him, but I know a lot of other people will probably disagree with that. But no, it was Sheffield United had absolutely deserved it at that point, and then they made it 2-0 not long afterwards with a decent, well-worked move down the right-hand side where the ball comes across to Tyrese Campbell, who, and I've got to give Chris Wilder credit here. As much as I don't like the guy, and I've admitted, and I've openly came out and said I'm really not a fan of his as a character, but you've got to give him immense credit for this, for the way he's handled Tyrese Campbell, because he came off the back of Luke getting out of contract at Stoke, I believe. Hardly anyone, and especially Sheffield United fans, would have seen him going to Sheffield United, and I think he's got something like 7 or 8 goals, and he's not even played anywhere near every single game. So, that's got to be impressive. That's up there, probably an underrated signing of the season for me. Um, and then obviously the third one, I'm trying to remember, is it Ryan Brewster? I believe. Yes, Ryan Brewster obviously got the third goal, which effectively killed off the contest. Jack Radoni obviously scored for Coventry in injury time, but no, this was a thoroughly deserved win and a scoreline for that matter for Sheffield United. Coventry were probably lucky that they didn't lose by more goals, and I was surprised at how bad Coventry were. But I think also that's probably just as much down to how good Sheffield United were. And I can't say it. We'll talk about the table in a minute, but the battle at the top of the top three is heating up extremely nicely at the moment. Maybe in a way it's a good thing we're out of it because I wouldn't have been, because it means I'll save my stress for the playoffs. So hey ho, so substitute one thing for another. But there you have it. So, but yeah, I mean, obviously as you said, Annie, really really good win for Sheffield United, and I guess in a way, I mean, what is it? They're top of the league now, aren't they? I'm pretty sure they are. Yeah, okay then. So after Leeds' result yesterday, 2 points between Sheffield United, Leeds, and Burnley is really shaping up to be an interesting one. But this is one of Sheffield United's tougher games. Got to get some encouragement from that, haven't they? Coming through that with flying colours.
Yeah, I mean, they had that Steel City derby win, didn't they, before the international break? On the back of the game against us, where you kind of felt, are they going to keep the pace up with Leeds and Burnley? But this, as probably one of their toughest games remaining, if not their toughest. No, they've got Burnley away, haven't they?
Toughest home game then, probably.
Toughest home game, and the informed side in the league, and completely blew them away. And yeah, I completely agree with you. I don't think I can add any more. I think it's just a great win for Sheffield United and one of their more convincing performances of the season. But look, they just keep winning games. They keep winning games, and that's why they're top of the league. And can't forget they've got that 2 points deduction, so they would be further clear. I know Chris Wilder keeps going on about the fact that they're actually 4 points ahead, or they're level on. They're actually top of the table when they're second. So he said stuff like that throughout the season. Well, in fact, that in and they'd be in a even nicer position. So a ridiculously, really, really good job Chris Wilder's doing.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I know he's got a ridiculous squad, parachute payments. He's got Gus Harmer, Vinny Souza, Yes Raksaki, Rhian Brewster, Callum O'Hare in the Championship, like running games. Yeah, it's not. He's got the best goalkeeper in the league. He's got a ridiculously good defence. Okay, he should be, probably up there. But still, to go up against Leeds, to go up against Burnley, not easy. And with all the turmoil at Sheffield United, with the 2 points deduction, with a complete squad change, he's doing really, really well, Chris Wilder, to kind of maintain this. And Blades are in a really good position now, because if this keeps going and Leeds keep kind of slipping up, maybe Burnley possibly draw a few more games, but that's less of a trend now. They're in a really good position to go on and gain automatic promotion, if not win the league.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you look at the two, they've won 85 points, haven't they? And you're right, if it weren't for that deduction at the start, then they would have been 4 points clear of both second and third with 7 games to go. But no, you've got it absolutely right. I mean, Chris Wilder's done an unbelievable job there with everything he's had to contend with. And yeah, there's nothing really more to add to that. The other couple of games that obviously were involved, so obviously they won on Friday night, which put the pressure on both Burnley and Leeds in order to match that. One of the teams matched Sheffield United's result, and one of them found a spectacular way not to do it. I'm trying to think which game we should go with first. So let's go with Leeds first. Then we'll talk about Burnley, Bristol City. I've heard this phrase quite a bit since the game. The good and bad of Island Melier. Now it's weird because the first half he saves a penalty. Now, granted, from what I remember, it wasn't the best struck penalty in the world, but a penalty save is a penalty save. It's still a big.
Can I just say, on that penalty, why the hell is Josh Tymon taking it? He's a left back. He scored 7 goals in his whole career, and he's not a goal scorer. He's not a goal scoring. Of course, one of those goals was against us. Of course it was. But he's not a goal scorer, and he's taking a penalty away at Ellen Road against, when they've got Liam Cullen on the pitch, where they've got Joe Allen, I think, on the pitch, or they've got actual forwards on the pitch. Anyway, so it seems a bit bizarre. I think that encapsulates Swansea's season, but
yeah,
had to save it, and he did.
Well, that's very true. Emilier did end up saving it, and then later on he puts an absolute howler for Harry Darland's goal, which is just like, do you know what? Right, I've always been of the opinion that I think with goalkeepers, if they for every let's say 5 saves they make, if they make 4 outstanding saves and then they make 1 howler, it's the howler that ends up getting mentioned. But even I can't defend Melier on this. Like it's mad. What is he doing for that? So basically, for everyone who didn't see the game, it's a series that, first of all, it started with Leeds basically messing around where they're giving the ball away and giving a silly corner away. It then had one corner which Melier actually made a decent save, to be fair, in the first corner in that sequence. Then the second one, it comes in, header comes straight at him. He's about to catch it, then somehow it slips back out of his hands. And Harry Darling, to be fair to him, you've got to give him credit how quick he was to react to that, because you've literally got a nanosecond to judge how the ball's just dropping. And he's like, drop, bang, 1-1, which obviously is great reactions from Harry Darling. But what Melier was doing there, I have absolutely no idea, and it just proves that it's the sort of conversation we've said repeatedly that if Leeds had a competent goalkeeper, how clear would they probably end up being in the league? But we'll get to that in a second. Then obviously you had Willie Nonto, who came off the bench, I believe. I don't think he started, but I could be wrong. Yeah, he did. Okay, thanks, Annie, for correcting us there. He gets what should have been probably the winner in the 86th minute. So, including added time, 10 minutes left to see it out. But then Vopotnik for Swansea ends up scoring, and obviously Melier doesn't save it. I don't know. I'm not a goalkeeper, but I wouldn't be able to know. But I don't know how much of it you can attribute to him not saving the shot, but also how bad the defending was, or if it was just a well-hit strike. But fair play to Swansea. First of all, let's get Swansea out of the way first. That is another absolutely fantastic result for them away at Ellen Road. Going behind twice, missing a penalty, to go there and show a bit of fight and a bit of battle to get something away at Leeds. You can say Leeds are feeling the pressure, and that's why they got a draw. But either way, Swansea shouldn't care about that. That's a really, really good result for them, and all the credit to them for doing it. But it's such a narrative to go with, but are Leeds falling apart again? For the record, I don't mind Leeds. I have no problem with Leeds, but you can't not ask that if they're going to be going on a run like this.
It's just it's so Leeds. It's so Leeds. I mean, they did this exact same thing last season at this very same time, where they position of strength and then just
thought, nah, we'll make it interesting. We'll make it interesting for everyone else.
Just you're kind of looking from the outside and you're going, great squad, great players, good manager, very good manager who's won this division twice, and they just find a way to somehow cock it up, and I don't understand it. Well, they've not collapsed, quotation marks, yet, but this is the type of result you're just going, no, you can't be doing that. You can't. It's understandable if it's a complete one-off, right? Randomly, you draw a game in the 99th minute or whatever it was. But this happened against Blackburn early in the season, where they went 1-0 up late on, and then they conceded even later than that to draw the game. And the run they've been on recently has not been good. Lost at Pompey, drew at QPR. And okay, they might have not. They've probably not won 3 games in their last something.
They've won one in their last 5, I think.
One in their last 5. So they've not won 4 games in their last 5. Not great. But it's just we're holding the top 3, even the top 4, to such a high standard. Any slight, even if like playoff form, is going to like drag you right back, and that's ultimately, unfortunately, what the standard is. That's the consequence of having parachute payments, having a really good squad, and then obviously everyone else projecting really high totals. Slight dip is going to cost you, especially at this time of the season where everything is so like tight. The only good thing for Leeds, I suppose, is the fact that they had a nice cushion before they had this bad run where they beat Sunderland and they beat Sheffield United back to back. That's the only thing that's not completely cut Leeds off, or they're not out of the top 2, or they're not even further back. But this can't go on for much longer, I don't think. Daniel Farker after the game yesterday said,
he said something like, we're definitely going to be playing in the Premier League next season.
And I'm like, that's interesting.
That's a very brave comment to come out and say.
It's a bold statement.
I mean, they might very well go up. Obviously, we don't know. They might very well go up. But to say that as in with absolute certainty, I'll tell you what, he's either going to look incredibly, he's going to look like a genius, or he's going to look like an incredible fool at the end. So we'll wait and see which road that goes down.
Well, for his sake, they bloody well must be, because otherwise he might not be in a Leeds. Otherwise he might not be Leeds United manager come the summer.
No.
But yeah, a very disappointing day for Leeds, because both Burnley and Sheffield United won, and they were the unfortunate ones to not match everyone else. So they're the big losers despite not losing. So yeah, really concerning slightly, but you just know with this Leeds side and this manager that they could go on and win the last 7 games and no one would be surprised.
Well, absolutely. I mean, if you look at the last 5, I mean, obviously, I think they started with a draw to West Brom. Okay, no disgrace. West Brom are a decent side. Pompey away. Pompey away is probably a harder fixture than people give it. I'm not saying Leeds it's justifiable for Leeds to go there and lose, but it's a harder game than what people end up realizing it actually is. Fratton Park's actually probably one of the best atmospheres and one of the toughest grounds to go to in the Championship. So there's that one. But even if you take them out of it, I mean, they beat Millwall, which is fair enough. 2-0 down away at QPR. Okay, shouldn't have been 2-0 down in the first place, but they came back to get something out of that. Bear in mind they lost their 4-0 last season. But this is the result out of the 5 for me, where you just cannot, from a Leeds point of view, you can't defend it. You need to, even if you don't play great, even if you play crap, you need to be coming out with that with a win, regardless one way or another. I guess, I mean, look, obviously there was the Burnley podcast called Turfcast. I sometimes watch their reactions to games. And one of the guys, when they were talking about the game against you lot yesterday, they started by playing the do 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 do. And I'm like, well, let's wait and see what happens with that. So I guess the better question would be, rather than are they falling apart, because obviously that's a joke. I wonder, are Leeds feeling the pressure at this point? Because I think that's probably something that's more likely to possibly be the case, because I've got no doubt in my mind there's pressure on Burnley and Sheffield United, parachute clubs, yada yada yada. But the size of the club Leeds are, the squad that they've got, they need to go up this season. And from what I think Carl said this, and I've had a couple of Leeds fans say the same to me, they've said their squad might look completely different next season if they don't go up this year. But I'm interested to see. I'll be interested to see what happens with Leeds if they're the ones who miss out on top 2. That's all I'll say to that one, because obviously the playoffs then they've got a mental hangover from not finishing first or second, and then you've got to go again in the playoffs. That's harder to do than what a lot of people think it is. But we'll wait and see with Leeds.
If they do drop in there, would they be the strongest team in the playoffs?
On paper, yes,
Yeah,
absolutely,
probably. So they've got,
absolutely.
if that's how the playoffs work, not always, but normally they do. Then normally the strongest team wins. Sometimes the best tournament team wins. Sunderland could be that team this year. They look like a pretty good tournament team to me. But they'll probably be the strongest side on paper there. So if Leeds do drop into the playoffs, they reached the playoff final last season. They lost to Southampton side, who they had. Southampton had the number on Leeds that season. I wouldn't bet completely against Leeds to win the playoffs.
No, I wouldn't either.
That goes for especially Burnley and also Sheffield United to the same extent. I think whoever drops in there has got a really good chance of making it. The 3 teams who we're talking about in the promotion race right now to actually go up. I think whoever drops in there's got a really good chance.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's not much that I would disagree with. We'll have to see what. Obviously, for my sake, I hope it's Sunderland, but we'll get on to. I'll talk about us at the very end. But yeah, so obviously we can say Leeds didn't lose. Obviously, so as opposed to Leeds being the main losers, obviously Sheffield United were one of the main winners, and then the other one was Burnley. Obviously, Burnley again. So obviously, I'll quickly say my bit on this one. Then obviously you take over for it. But decent free kick from Zian Fleming for the winning goal. From what I saw in the highlights, and I'd imagine you obviously watched a lot more of the game from me, it looked like the score was probably harsh on Burnley. It looked like they had, unless the EFL highlights missed all of your chances and you created loads of them, which, unless that was the case, it looked like Burnley should have put the game to bed a lot sooner, or should have at the very least had a couple of extra goals. But to be fair, it's not an easy game. Bristol City, you're obviously where you are for a reason. You're in the cusp of the playoff battle, so it's a big win for Burnley. But obviously, I'll let you take it away and see what you think.
No, I agree. Burnley, the scoreline flattered us a lot. It's probably one of 2 or 3 games this season where we've been completely kind of just shut out. West Brom away it happened, Blackburn away it happened, and this is probably the other one where we just didn't look a threat going forward, and that's very rare. That's been very rare this season anyway. And Yeah, Burnley were magnificent. I think if you asked 9 out of 10 British City fans, they're probably taking a boring feast, sleepy 0-0. Right?
Scott Parker arrest 0-0.
Yeah, you're reading a book on the sofa and you just it's oh yeah, the game's still going. Yeah, take that 0-0. But um, yeah, if you looked at it, if you just saw the scoreline, you'd have gone, oh, tight game there. Really wasn't. I mean, not
That's
that
what I
Max
thought
only,
at first when I looked at it. That's what I thought. When
not
I saw the scoreline, I thought, oh, they've edged past them. And I look at the highlights like, no, they bloody haven't. They should have
yeah,
won by more.
they should have blown us up. They should have blown us away, to be honest. There was not that Max O'Leary had a hell of a lot of saves to make, but that was because there were so many block shots, and our defending actually really good because we didn't concede from open play. We scored. We conceded from a superb free kick by Zian Fleming, who was who was a brilliant player at this level, and is a bit of a bogey player for us. Funnily enough, scores against us a lot for Millwall and for Burnley, clearly. But yeah, it was a really resounding performance, and it should have been a resounding scoreline, but it wasn't, thankfully for us. And honestly, we had a chance right at the end to get a point,
Yeah, I did see that.
and I was like, we did not deserve it in the slightest. It was, and that was in the 93rd or 94th minute where Yu Hirakawa's shot was literally straight at James Trafford, and I was like, oh, and I went, oh great, oh disappointing the chance didn't go in, and then I took a step back and went, that's the only time James Trafford's had to make a save all game. Yeah, they were brilliant. And Jaden Anthony down the left hand side, seriously good player. Seriously good player. Scored at Ashton Gate early in the season and gave not our first choice right wing back. I still gave him a really torrid time. Marcus Edwards is a quality operator. But what I was really impressed by that Burnley side was Josh Laurent, Josh Cullen, and Josh Brownhill in the midfield. The three Joshes, superb. They're genuinely superb. And I would argue that we have got a pretty good midfield in Max Bird and Jason Knight. I think they're two high quality operators at this level. Got a good balance about them. Completely nullified by them three. The quality, the running, the engine on Brownhill, the passing of Cullen, the composure of Laurent, completely nullified us, and we didn't have any hope of we're not bad on the counter attack. We have surprised teams this season on the counter attack. We did it at Sunderland where we were quite effective second half on the counter attack. We've done it against Norwich, Borough, but yesterday we couldn't just. Anytime we got the ball, it was, oh my God, there's 7 Burnley players around me. What do I do? Kind of scenario instead of, all right, let's pick a pass and let's pick another pass. Which is what we normally do and try and work our way around. That just wasn't happening. And that's massive credit to Burnley. And when Naki Wells was put in 1-on-1 against 9 out of 10 Championship teams, he's clean through. But when you come up against Maxime Esteve, he's literally closer to the corner flag than he is to having a shot, which just about summed it up. Burnley deserved winners. They're brilliant. Egan Riley at centre back is not only a good defender, but he's an excellent passer of the ball, and that is a very Premier League looking centre back in my opinion. They were definitely the best defensive side I've seen this season by a country mile. Maybe Leeds, but Burnley were superb. They've got a nice balance about them. They look a very good tournament side as well. So very impressed by Burnley. For Bristol City, I mean, I don't know. I think it's one we can write off as a bit of a free hit and kind of just go Burnley away. Anything more than 0 points as a bonus. But yeah, felt like a bit of a missed opportunity in terms of the performance because I thought if we go out there, obviously Burnley were really good, but if we went out there and showed a little bit more intensity, a little more control, had a bit more control of the game, which we did at Sheffield United and got a point from, maybe we could have got something. But I think this next week coming up for Bristol City, humongous, season defining. Whether or not we get to the playoffs, I think, is based on next Saturday's home game against Watford, and then the game against West Brom, which I think is just, for neutrals, you're going like this. For me, I'm going yeah,
Both at Ashton Gate, aren't they?
both at Ashton Gate, which is massively advantageous, but also brings with it a hell of a lot of pressure. And I have on this very channel said that we are not the greatest of sides under pressure. So yeah, next week season defining. If we win both of those games, this result is parked aside, and no one really notice that's an eyelid even, but properly now, like season defining, because Middlesbrough have overtaken us. We've not lost any ground in the top six, which is not bad, because everyone else equally as incompetent, equally as inconsistent. No one wants to get into the top six, but yeah, a tough game, kind of one you can just park. Didn't get hammered. Did get hammered performance wise, but the scoreline was 1-0, so not a massive sort of let's all panic, let's all kind of just it's
You
all
kind of just go, it's Burnley away. Fair enough.
Exactly. It would have been nice to get something, grind a 0-0 out, but didn't happen. So you can just move on, I think.
Yeah, well, we didn't grind out a 0-0 there. We decided to somehow grind a way to not win with having 2 late penalties being saved, which was fun. But let's move on about that. No, I think you are right, though. I think you're just outside the playoffs on goal difference. And it's like, again, I can imagine you're probably a big Norwich City fan, put it that way, when you heard Josh Sargent scored in what the
I
90th.
won't be if they keep winning games, mind.
Well, yeah, that's very true. Actually, I think our next 2 games, Sunderland's next 2 games are away at West Brom and Norwich, funnily enough. So, I know. Well, we'll see what happens with that one.
Win.
Yeah, I know you. I remember what was the game we played away at Middlesbrough? And you were like, Sunderland, come on, up the Mackhams or whatever it is. And then Enzo Lefebvre ended up causing that. What's his name? Ryan Giles' own goal. So who knows? Maybe we'll win 1-0. And I'm actually going to West Brom next Saturday, so that's going to be fun. So Tony Mowbray derby, yay! Right, okay, but actually, let's move on to the playoff picture then, because obviously we've discussed the top 3, but it's looking tasty there. But as you kind of mentioned, with the playoff runs, nobody seems to want to get in them. So we had obviously Coventry, who lost. Bristol City, of course, lost. But fair enough, Bristol City were playing Burnley away. Coventry were playing Sheffield United away. Probably let's talk about the team that is still currently in 6th, but somehow contrived a way to get beat in the very last minute, which before this game, Norwich would have been seen as very mid-table sort of side. But Josh Sargent had other ideas and thought, no, let's keep ourselves in the playoff hunt just about, and scored in the 90th minute. So, yeah, I don't know what to make of this. I mean, obviously, look, it's not a good result for West Brom, but away at Norwich, despite their recent troubles, isn't the easiest of fixtures at Carrow Road. Until I think there was a point where they were unbeaten for like nearly 12 months at Carrow Road, and I think it was you guys. Yeah, I was just about to say Bristol City were the first team certainly this season to go there and win. So, but Josh Sargent scores in the 90th minute. So, which angle do we want to take this? Bad defeat for West Brom, or really good win for Norwich, or is it just one that West Brom just write off a bit and then just sort of move on, or what? How do you assess it? Because for Norwich, it's a massive result to keep themselves just about in it.
Yeah. I'll take the West Brom side, because I think Norwich still need to do a little bit more to make up for what was the pretty horrendous run that got everyone thinking, okay, these guys are mid-table for now. Obviously, the door's still wide open for them. But for West Brom, what I'm seeing a lot from Albion fans is their attack isn't quite clicking. And that really surprises me, because if you look at as the Americans would say, the attacking roster they have, Adam Armstrong, Tom Fellows, Grady Diangana, Carlin Grant, John Swift, Jed Wallace, Will Lancashire on loan from Tottenham, highly rated. They've got so much attacking quality. Josh Madger, Daryl DK. I would kill for some of those players. And they have definitely got star power to go and outscore teams pretty much. Just not quite clicking. And I don't know if that's still to do with the Corberán to Mowbray transition, or it's just a lack of production from the attacking players, and maybe it's a lack of confidence. But they definitely had the chances yesterday from looking at the stats and the highlights. They definitely had the chances to score. Norwich were not great in the first half. They got better second half, but they weren't great first half. Norwich. Albion had the chances and they just didn't take it. And it's a bit weird because I think West Brom are a really good side, and I actually think they still will get into the top 6 over their competition at the moment. But they just flattered to deceive a little bit. And ultimately, to be honest, if you compare it to the 10 season average, where have I got it? I've got my notes here somewhere. I think I've lost it.
Is this about your tally that you mentioned in your video about what you normally
Yeah,
need to get sixth?
yeah, they're like it's like 6-7% off what the normal standard is for top six, the sixth position. That is miles off it. That is like if you compare that to 24 other teams, if everyone is 6% off, everyone is it's all gonna be complete mishmash. So they're miles off being a top six side. Again, there's a lot of context to that. A lot more of the points are going to the top three and the top four, but still, they're not performing like a top six side compared to the last 10-year average. So it just feels a bit wrong with West Brom at the moment because I think there's so much quality. They've got a really good manager, a really well likable manager who's got a really good playing style, which looks like it should work with this Albion team. It's just not working at the minute. And I agree, Norwich away is quite a difficult fixture, but Preston have gone there and won. Sheffield Wednesday have gone there and won.
True.
We've gone there and won. Middlesbrough have got a point there. There have
Derby
been
got a point there when Derby are
Derby got
notoriously bad away from home.
Oxford got a point there. There have been teams who've gone to Norwich and grind and won or got points. And you're going, okay, interesting. So it's not it's not Burnley away, Leeds away, Sheffield United away, Sunderland away sort of game. It is still a game where if you want to get into the top six, you should be at least not losing the game. To lose that game in that fashion as well, where they were, I know you want to go win the game. They get caught on the counter attack. Sargent's this is arguably the best striker in the division. Has the length of Carrow Road to run at, and it's like,
well, it's like if you don't get counted on, then at least if you gain a point, you've gained a point on Bristol City, you've gained a point on Coventry, haven't you? So if you go away, if you go away at that stage in the game, at least make sure you get a 0-0, don't you?
Yeah, and it's just a bit bizarre. It doesn't really feel like a Tony Mowbray sort of ending to a game, to be honest. But I don't know. I still think West Brom are in a good position. I still think they'll get into the top six, but just a few bits of concern, and I think
You just need to see a little bit more from them.
exactly.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I think from the Norwich perspective, look. By the way, I think it will be two of Coventry, West Brom, Middlesbrough, and Bristol City. I think realistically, I don't think we'll get to Watford in a bit, but I don't think Watford will have enough. I don't think Chris Reed from the excellent Talk Norwich City podcast, like I talk to him constantly, and he's saying, look, I try to have a laugh with him and go, come on, only 4 points off players. Go, shut up, it's not happening. So they're very adamant there that it's probably not going to end up happening. I think they're kind of the Norwich fans seem to me, from what I'm seeing, are looking towards next season as opposed to this one. But I mean, for West Brom, look, like I said, I mean, you are right. There have been teams that on paper are a lot poorer than what West Brom are, that have gone to Norwich and picked something up. So Preston, like you said, Preston won there, Sheffield Wednesday won there. Both Oxford and Derby managed to get a point there. So it's not quite losing to Plymouth, for example, or losing away at Plymouth or whatever it is. But yeah, it's still not great. But I think I agree with you. Norwich will have too much to do. But I still agree with you. I still fancy West Brom to overcome this and still get into the playoffs themselves. But time will tell whether we are proven correct or not. Let's also look at the next one. So okay. Let's talk about Middlesbrough 2, Oxford 1, because they're the other team, obviously, that after this, we've kind of talked about all four of those teams that we've mentioned that are separated by like 2 points or whatever it is. That was needed for Middlesbrough, safe to say. And I know that Middlesbrough, I think, have still got to go to Blackburn. They've still got to play Leeds at home as well. They've got to go to Coventry away in their last remaining games. So this game, and it was pretty much one where Middlesbrough, if they wanted any chance of top six, with the greatest of respect to Oxford, had to be 3 points and nothing less was going to do. And it didn't look great for them at half time when they were 1-0 down. But they managed to, but fairly, and Kelechi Iheanacho managed to get his first Borough goal at long last. And then they scored, who was it that scored the winner? Was it Neto Borges, who's been playing apparently at centre half for Middlesbrough. Doesn't look like it. What a finish that was. Ilang Jr. got 2 assists in the second half, so obviously good impact in the second half from him. But for Oxford, it's not disastrous in that sense because it's not a game they necessarily expected anything out of. I know Borough's been off it recently, but it's not a game, if you're Oxford, you realistically expect something. But obviously, if you go 1-0 up, you're disappointed not to come away with anything. But from Borough's point of view, how needed was that?
Massively. And as I can't remember. But God bless not Johnny Howson, fucking Mark Travers, because
Yeah.
he's remarkable away at Luton, and he's pretty much kept Borough in the game against Oxford. He's a really he's a top championship goalkeeper, and when you've got the quality in the forward areas that Middlesbrough do, I've reeled them off before. I'm not going to reel them off again. They are just they're a force to be reckoned with. They can quickly turn a game around like that, even if they're not playing well. So a good win for Borough. Again, how convinced am I?
Borough fans won't be, for what it's worth. I think Borough fans are still pretty doubtful that they're going to do it.
I mean, it's a good weekend for them because we lost. West Brom lost. Coventry lost. They were the only ones that actually won out of that little pack. If we're ignoring Watford and below, but still, I'm a little bit iffy on whether Middlesbrough can actually get in there. I think they've got as good a chance as us or West Brom, clearly, but it's just those inconsistencies again, and the randomness of Middlesbrough, which is just you don't know what Middlesbrough are going to expect. As Neil Warnock once said, it's like my team's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get.
You never know. You're going to get, like, I don't know, what's a really good chocolate? Toblerone, or you're going to get a supermarket version of a chocolate.
Yeah, exactly. That was when he was Borough manager as well, wasn't it? Which is ironic. Yeah, I am still a little bit. Unsure. That's no disrespect, because also you've got to consider the opposition that they've played. It's a relatively soft opposition in Oxford. No disrespect to Oxford, especially Oxford at home and the other home side. You've got that's a game you've got to. If you're a team in this kind of position, you just got to win that game no matter what. And they did. To be fair, but they were also not very convincing in the performance. Similar to West Brom, I've got to see more. That applies to pretty much everyone, I think, in this top six run, in this top six race, apart from maybe Coventry. But I just think these teams have got to show a little bit more if they're to establish themselves as serious contenders, I think.
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty reasonable. As I've said, they've had games that, Blackburn aren't in great shakes at the minute, so I think Middlesbrough's next game is away at Blackburn. So if they go to Blackburn and win, then who knows? And particularly if they put a good performance in against Leeds, which I suppose you could say the way Leeds, maybe the pressure getting to Leeds more, and at the Riverside as well, there might be a factor in that. But it wouldn't surprise me with Borough if they went and go and lost to Blackburn and then got a point against Leeds, because that would just be, because again, it's not just Borough, but it's peak Championship all over for results like that to come into it. But yeah, I'm still not sure whether Borough will be good enough, because in terms of, I think their attack is very good, but I do question whether is it good enough to, because Borough are always prone to a daft, stupid goal. They're prone to an error. And the more errors that keep happening, the more pressure that's put on their attack to be able to combat all of that. So we'll wait and see. Time will tell with that. As for Oxford, yeah, it was obviously disappointing with 10 minutes to go not to get anything. But dare I say, I think again, I'm looking at Oxford's running here, and I think obviously next up Sheffield United at home, which is obviously very tricky. QPR at home, I think for me that looks like out of all their home, I think they've got Sheffield United, QPR, and Sunderland, and then they've still got Leeds to come to Kassam. So I think QPR is the one that they'll be looking at and thinking that needs to be 3 points. Sheffield United could maybe get a point, but even then I'm not expecting it really. Sheffield away, nothing to play for in that sense. Leeds, obviously. Cardiff, that feels for me like the very big one. But bear in mind that's on Easter Monday.
Cardiff.
Yeah,
Cardiff away.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But obviously it's away from home, isn't it? And their away form isn't exactly great, Oxford. Obviously, then they go host Sunderland, which, to be fair, out of Sheffield United, Leeds, and Sunderland's probably the one fixture I could see them getting something out of in particular, depending on what our situation. Because obviously by that point we probably will have secured playoffs, but it depends on our sort of mindset and mentality. But again, it's at the Kassam, so you never know. And then obviously Swansea away on the last day, so they've got a couple of away games. Again, their away games actually I would say look fairly decent. From what I can remember, Swansea, Cardiff, Sheffield Wednesday, and obviously 4 of their last 7 are at home, but 3 of them are against teams in the top 4. So we'll wait and see with that one. I still fancy Oxford because of Gary Rowett to get enough to squeeze over the line, but obviously 4 points isn't it? 4 points isn't a huge cushion at the moment, and obviously if results go against them next weekend, that goes like that down to 1 point. But we'll see. Again, it's kind of one where the relegation battle is just going to be teams. The teams are much less likely to be consistent down the bottom than what they probably are within, say, the top end of the league. So let's move on to the relegation battle then, and we'll talk briefly about. Let's talk about the team down the bottom of them. Actually, no, I'll tell you what. Let's not. Let's talk about Hull versus Luton. And the main reason I want to get to that is because the goal that won it was. If you're a Hull fan, you'll probably be tearing your hair out how unlucky it is. If you're Luton, you're thinking, just take any bugger at this point. Just take absolutely anything. And fair play. First of all, for Luton, really good. They built off the back of what was a really good performance against Middlesbrough before the international break. They went away at Hull. Now, granted, Hull are the worst home team in the league, I believe, in terms across the whole season. But still, Luton have also been pretty much nearly as bad away from home. So something probably had to give there. For Hull, it's disappointing. I think defeat would have been more fatal for Luton than it would have been for Hull, because Hull can still recover from it. But Luton, for me, I imagine you agree, Luton, by hook or by crook, whatever it is, just had to win that.
Yeah, agreed. I was a bit surprised Luton didn't start with Cal Naismith, who's been pretty good at centre back, but that was a pretty resolute defensive performance. A bit of luck, and then you just
Sorry, I just had to put that on screen.
a bit of luck for Luton, and that's all you need in this sort of game. And Luton, we know, have the quality to win football games at this level. They should be winning a lot more than they are.
I agree. Yeah,
but they just need to find a way, and they're doing so. They've become a lot better away from home. I think that's back-to-back away wins now on the road, which is
Cardiff and Hull, isn't it? I'm pretty sure it is.
So not very good, very, very good. Considering they lost 10 in a row away from home at one point in the season or something, or 11 or whatever it was. A brilliant turnaround away from home. And their form, if you look at it, has got a lot better. They beat Pompey. They lost 4-0 at Burnley, but they were down to 10 men at 0-0. Drew against Middlesbrough. They probably should have won that game. They should have won that game. And they've gone away to Hull in a direct head-to-head, and they've gone and won. They've gone and won it, which is not easy. So I think we're slowly starting to see the quality that's within this Luton side, and I know it wasn't a great weekend for them, because I know they beat them. I know they beat Hull, but Cardiff didn't lose. Who else was it? Pompey won. I know Oxford lost. Stoke won, which is not ideal. But if they just keep sort of, I know the game's running out. If they just sort of keep going and picking up, 4 points and 2 points per game for 14 points across 7 games for the rest of the season when you're in a relegation battle. Yeah, yes, please. So I am growing more confident with Luton, and I think they're going to be it's going to be really tight with Luton, I think, of whether or not they stay up, and that's not good news for Derby because they're directly above them.
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, of course, Derby didn't play at the weekend because obviously we had Preston facing Aston Villa today in the FA Cup quarterfinals. Very quickly, decent effort from Preston in the first half, but obviously Premier League quality just ended up showing in the end. So no disgrace from Preston. They've obviously got themselves a good cup run to the FA Cup quarterfinals, and looked a decent atmosphere at Deepdale. So, but obviously for them, attention will turn back to the league in terms of obviously having to go to Derby on Tuesday night, I think it is, Derby away. So yeah, but for Luton, you're right. That was obviously a monumental win. It's one where again the result matters a lot more than how fluent you might look or whatever else it is, especially when you're fighting to stay up and fighting for your lives. So and again for Hull, look, they've been really good especially away from home. They've been really good under Ruben Sellers. I mean, obviously they're the only team that's come up here and beaten us at the Stadium of Light this season. So in the league anyway, but yeah, I think Hull can recover from this. I still think Hull will be perfectly fine. But yeah, from Luton's point of view, that was a monumental result and it was massive. We talked about Derby, who were briefly in the bottom 3 because they didn't play. Luton in the bottom 3. The other team in the bottom 3 who's starting to look a bit less positive for them, which is Plymouth. Obviously, they got a 0-0 draw away at Watford, which in isolation isn't a bad result. A 0-0 away at Watford is okay, but at this stage of the season, Plymouth, you felt for me, needed to win that game. And I remember right, I think Ryan Hardy had a big chance in the first half, which he should have, which he would have been disappointed not to have scored. But then obviously equally, Watford were going for it at the end, and Plymouth could have lost it. But I'm looking at the table again, and don't get me wrong, Derby have proven a couple of results can change, but again, when you've got 7 games left, you're effectively you're 7 points adrift because of the goal difference. So it's starting. I don't know what you think, Annie, but for me, it's starting to look more and more like Plymouth. Although they might show some improvement over the next 7 games, I don't think they're going to show enough improvement for them to claw that gap, but then other teams to not pick up enough points to get up to definitely finish above Plymouth, I should say, at the end of the season. Basically, long story short, Plymouth for me are still probably going to go down. I don't know what you think, though.
I agree. They've shown fight, they've shown some desire, and they've knocked out Liverpool and knocked out Brentford with a bit of fight and desire, but I just don't think it's going to be enough. Unfortunately, I think they're lacking on quality. They're lacking on squad depth. They didn't really replace Morgan Whittaker properly, and that's a bit of a. We haven't really talked about that because there's been a bit of an upturn in form, gradual but slight. But when you lose at home to Derby, and you're losing the way you did against Sheffield Wednesday at home, at Home Park, which is the ground where Plymouth get their points, it just doesn't smell right. And I think Plymouth are, as you said, in isolation, not a bad point. Watford away, it's a good point actually, but
it's not enough at this stage, is it, for them?
7 games to go. It's going to be really difficult, I think, for Argyle to claw themselves back. I just don't think they have enough in them. And that's really that's quite a that's quite a tough thing to say because I really do like Plymouth. I think they're a really well run club. And they've done some excellent. They've made some excellent. They're pretty punching above their weight to be in the Championship in the first place. But I just think the style of play has changed drastically from Schumacher to Foster to Rooney to now Miron Muslich, who's on a complete different sort of end of the scale. That's going to take its time. Yeah, it's slight upturn results, but it's just not enough. And I think they're all but gone, unfortunately. I would more than happily sit here and eat humble pie if they go on some miraculous run and
overturn basically 3 teams above them.
Yeah, and to be fair to Plymouth, they do have a bit of a knack of going against the grain. They did it in League One where they got 101 points up against 2 absolute giants for that division, in Ipswich and Sheffield Wednesday.
Bear in mind when you look at Ipswich's team that year as well, which most of that squad ended up winning promotion to the Premier League the following year as well.
Exactly, and Sheffield Wednesday, who are a club who should not be in League One. So the fact that they muscle their way through that. That club's got a bit of fight about it. Miron Music has got a lot of fight about him. Their centre backs have got a lot of fight about them in Katic and Talaverov and who was it? Cornel Shooks and Poulsen. But I just don't see enough in the way of attacking quality at the moment. That's quite a weird thing to say because normally, well, since Argyle have been in the Championship, the one thing you've banked on is their attacking quality, and it's normally been their defence. It's kind of been flipped a little bit recently, which is a bit odd. But yeah, I just don't see a way. I just don't see a realistic world where Argyle can overturn ultimately 7 points and stay in this division. I think it's going to be too much of an ask.
I get the impression as well with how they spend the Morgan Whittaker money in League One, because Argyle haven't just come down from the Championship. I think Argyle in League One should be able to attract good players at that level, and I think it'd be interesting to see how the Morgan Whittaker money will end up getting spent, because I don't think they spent it, because obviously I think they sold Whittaker very late in the window, if I remember correctly. So obviously they didn't have much time to go out and adequately get some replacements in. I think they got some like £6 million. I think it was 6 million plus add-ons or whatever it is, but I don't know if they owed a sell-on clause to Swansea. But and then you obviously got like talent like Ballymumbra as well. There's another one. Like he probably might end up going in the summer. You could get a decent fee for him. Then that money should, at League One level, should enable you to go out and spend and recruit really, really well for that division.
They spent a club record fee on Michael Baidoo in January, which was a replacement for Morgan Whittaker, but he's barely played. So they've spent some of the Whittaker money, but it's not worked, and it's not had the impact they wanted.
No, exactly. So, I mean, obviously there will be pressure on them probably next season to at least be in the top six. But yeah, it's a shame for because I'm with you. I quite like Plymouth. I've got a lot of time for them. I wasn't happy when they took 4 points off us, but obviously, I've got a lot of time for them as a club. And there's a couple of really good Plymouth fans that I follow on social media as well. So hopefully for them, if they don't stay up, hopefully they manage to a promotion challenge next season. Right, let's quickly run through the rest of the relegation threatened teams. So obviously, you mentioned briefly Chef Wed saying the club shouldn't be in League One, and although they're not in the relegation battle, the team they were playing was involved in the relegation battle. So Cardiff won, Sheffield Wednesday won. Um, yeah, interesting sort of game, really. Isaac Davis obviously scores in the first half to give Cardiff the lead at half time, and the Cardiff, by all accounts, sound like they played really well in the first half. But then, obviously, it's a typical story where if you don't take your chances, then look what can end up happening, and you can get punished for it. Michael Ahikwe scores from a corner. Quick funny fact. I
Of
don't know if
course
you
he
know this.
does.
I was just, well, quick funny fact. Michael Ahikwe in our last home league game in League One was against Rotherham. Michael Ahikwe scored, and it was 1-1. Michael Ahikwe scored at both ends of the pitch, which was quite funny. Scored against us and then scored a fantastic own goal for us. But anyway, no, Cardiff won, Chef Wed won. I mean, I guess to quickly touch on the Chef Wed, because the main things about Cardiff, I mean, Chef Wed, mathematically 5 points off. I mean, it's still not impossible, but but again, we talk about Norwich and say like Norwich how we don't think they'll do it or whatever. I think Norwich have got a significantly better chance than Sheffield Wednesday personally of the playoffs. And we know about Chef Wed. We know what their problem is. We know their problem is that muppet of an owner above Danny Roll. But for them, not a bad point away from home for one being 1-0 down. From Cardiff's point of view, I mean, obviously, I think before the game it was obviously in their hands mathematically. And look, just because they didn't win doesn't mean Derby will beat Preston necessarily. But you get the impression for Cardiff, 2 points dropped probably in the circumstances.
So before I touch on Cardiff, but you say Norwich have a much better chance of the top six than Sheffield Wednesday. I'll actually push back on that a little bit. I'd say Sheffield Wednesday have a slightly better chance just by their fixtures. They're
Okay, fair enough.
they've definitely got like softer fixtures than Norwich. A good, it's an okay point for Cardiff because they should have probably been out of sight in the first half. They were in complete control of the game and had quite a few opportunities. They took the lead, but they should have won that game, I think. And that would be the big disappointment for them because it's a home game against a side who might make the playoffs. I might have a chance of making the playoffs, but I think probably will be kind of 10th, 11th, top of half, either top half or top of bottom half, somewhere in that region. Sheffield Wednesday. So they should have probably won that game, Cardiff. They had the opportunities to, and that'd be disappointing for them. It's not the worst point in the world, but Luton won. Derby have got that game in hand now. We'll wait until Tuesday to see what they do. Plymouth, they matched that result, and they lost 2 points on Stoke, which is not ideal. So they gain a point on Oxford, though, which is okay. But still, not.
In a
It's
point
an
on Hull
okay
as
result.
well, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for a while. It's not the worst point ever, but it's not. It would have been a game where they kind of circle going. That would be nice to get 3 points in, but they're not got themselves into a decent position to go and do that. But haven't, as most poor teams don't really manage to find ways to win many games, which is why they're probably down near the bottom. So uh, not the it's just not. It's an okay point. It's an okay point.
Yeah, no, I'd probably agree with that. Well, and quickly on the Chef Wed thing, when we if you say mention their kind of fixtures, to be fair, I will probably retract a bit what I've said if that is the case because Chef Wed tend to be very good against teams in the bottom half. I believe. I think their record against bottom half teams is excellent. Actually, there's just teams obviously near the top that they haven't beaten really. So yeah, for Chef, I suppose for Chef Wed, okay, you could say in the circumstance for Chef Wed, if they're still looking at playoffs, it isn't necessarily a bad point. They'd probably say it's a decent point, all things considered. And for Cardiff, I guess it depends. If Derby don't beat Preston, then you go, well, okay, it's not the end of the world, really. But yeah, from Cardiff's point of view, they probably would be disappointed when you're 1-0 up and you're playing well enough and you don't take your chances and then you get punished second half. But again, it's I suppose Cardiff Sheffield Wednesday is kind of the battle of the potentially two worst owners in the Championship. And there's some, and that probably doesn't go being said lightly, to be honest. But yeah, so not bad. I suppose not the end of the world for either, if you want to look at it that way. Two more games left before I talk. Well, three more games left. I'll save Sunderland till the end. Let's see, which one do we go with? Yeah, let's quickly talk. Stoke 3, QPR 1. Yeah, I mean, by all accounts, it sounded like Stoke played really well this game. And obviously, look, I mean, we've said this the past few times. Stoke have got a really good manager in Mark Robbins. But I think a lot of Championship. If you ask any Championship fan, really, a lot of them, would you take Mark Robbins? More people would say no than yes. Absolute. Sorry, say yes than no. Got that completely wrong, didn't I? But no, they raced into a 3-0 lead. Obviously conceded pretty much near from the end. But for Stoke, again, it's huge. And obviously we can have the bigger discussion about Stoke maybe at the end of the season about eventually someone's got to go in and start to try and turn that round and get them competing. Because I've mentioned before, ever since Stoke got relegated from the Premier League, they've never once been even in the top half of the Championship, let alone competing for promotion, whether it be through top two or playoffs, which isn't really good enough. But yeah, one thing they absolutely cannot do is get relegated. With Robbins, I didn't think they would anyway, but this will only help that feeling even more, I think.
Yeah, they've got some good players, haven't they? And okay, in isolation, maybe QPR at home at the moment isn't the worst fixture to ever have because they're kind of on the beach and they're not really going anywhere.
Still got to win it, haven't you?
Yeah, no, you're right, absolutely. And they've won 2-3. Sorry, they probably should have got something at Coventry. They probably should have got something at Millwall. So they're getting better in terms of performances and results. And they've now got a 4-point buffer to Derby, who've still got that game in hand on Tuesday night. So a good win for Stoke, a much needed one, and I think they've got some good players. They've got some good players, especially in the forward regions in Manhoef, Bajan Ho, Gallagher, and I'm looking at the bench: Nathan Lowe, Lewis Kumas, Brian Mai. They've got some good attacking players. Ali Al Hamadi, obviously. And then in midfield, you've got Lewis Baker and you've got Marta Berger. You've got Moran in there. It's not like it's a horrendous team. It's just not clicked, and it's felt like it's not clicked for about 15 years. Since they've been in the Championship anyway. So
well, for a good half dozen years.
Yeah. So it's just a feeling. It's just a case of I think when rather than if, and I think Mark Robbins is a good manager for them to maybe find a solution, maybe find a working sort of formula. But yeah, good win, and I don't think they'll go down. And
not me neither.
They've got Preston away, then they've got Luton at home, and they've got Cardiff away. 3 humongous games. 2 of them bigger than Preston, but 3 still pretty massive games for Stoke if they are to find them, if they are to either get relegated or stay up. If they lose those 3 games, I don't think they will. But if they do, theoretically speaking, I think they'll be bang in trouble. But I think they'll do enough over these 3 games to kind of get yourself enough of a buffer to be fine. I think, and I think they've always thought they'd be fine. And performances and results like that yesterday, I think, are just an indication.
Yeah, I mean, if those are the next 3 games, then they are massive, aren't they? But all you really need to do now is you could probably afford to get maybe something like 5 points, even if you won 1, drew 2, or something. Then at least it at least creates that buffer, and as long as you just keep matching, all Stoke effectively need to do now is just match what teams below them do, and they'll be fine. Which I know is a lot easier said than done, but still. Quickly on QPR, will we say that QPR's? I don't like to use the phrase "on the beach" now. I mean, I suppose if you want to quickly look at it, I mean, they're 7 points above the bottom 3, even though I don't think we're really including QPR in this conversation. But
they're on the beach.
Mind you, I'll say that if they continue to go on the beach and slide a little bit, then you never know. But I don't think they'll be that much on the beach. Put it that way.
They're well away from the coast. They're well away from the tides. They've put the what's it, the sun cream on. They're lying on the sunbeds.
Yeah.
They've got their little fancy umbrellas on there. They're reading a book, whatever they're doing. They've got the sunshades on. Marty Cifuentes is probably in, I don't know, Mallorca somewhere, just chilling on the beach. And
put your feet in the shallow water, like where it's the muddy sand sort of thing. Just get a nice mixture of the two.
Yeah, drinking a nice mock cocktail or whatever, whilst the teams at the top and near the bottom are frantically working away in the office, still working overtime. So yeah, I think they're on the beach, and I don't think that's a bad thing, to be honest, because they were in a horrendous position earlier in the season. It's been such a weird season for Rangers, hasn't it? We were thinking at the start of it, oh my God, they're horrendously bad. And then they won 15 gazillion games in a row and they were top
And you think,
six.
oh well, they're actually really good, and then
Yeah.
now they've kind of just leveled out a bit again, haven't
Now
they?
there's not been a period of win loss. It's been win. It's been loss, win, loss. It's just there's been no middle ground,
Yeah.
and because of that, they found themselves bang in the middle. So yeah, a weird season for QPR, but I don't think, considering the start they had, I think they'll be fine. I think they'll take that.
I think Cifuentes has also proven that twice now for 2 seasons he's been able to get QPR out of trouble. And just to quickly as well say that QPR I think lost quite a few experienced players last summer, I believe, and have gone more towards the sort of youth sort of policy with it. So really, when
They
you actually look at
they didn't sign a single English player. I think is what I was.
then there you
I
go.
think
Which by the way says a lot about the English market because we know what value is abroad these days. But for that, in that things considered, to not be in the relegation battle probably isn't a bad season for QPR in the circumstances with that. So it's just a question whether these guys have a season to bet in and then see what they expect for next season for them to really kick on. But no, I mean, look, it's obviously not a good result for QPR, but I think again QPR will be more than all right. They're just, I think I'm with you. They're kind of on that mock cocktail, shallow in the water, sort of nice sunny resort on down on the beach on Roker in Sunderland, all that other stuff. Actually, funny enough, that's our last game. Last game is away at Sunderland, so that was actually an unintentional segue. The last game, before I do mention Sunderland, probably a team that we kind of half looked towards maybe slipping towards the bottom three, but I think we're on the same points as QPR now after beating Blackburn at the weekend, Portsmouth. Jacob Murphy scored a pretty decent finish after unsettled from Colby Bishop. Blackburn have kind of slid down the table a little bit since Villas-Ran Ismail. I can never pronounce that name correctly, but ever since he's come in, they haven't really been that great. But you got to say, from Pompey's point of view, again, as I've kept saying all season, they've just made basically Fortress Fratton. Yes, I know Portsmouth did the championship thing of beating Leeds, then losing at home to Plymouth a few days later, but they've done it. I think I'm kind of like you. I don't think they're quite as on the beach as QPR yet, but they will. But I think another 4 or 5 points, 5, 6 points at most, should be all right. But yeah, I mean,
they're a
I
good
don't see
side.
them
I
being in
think.
trouble.
Yeah, I think they're a good side. And they've already they're on 45 now with 6 to go. What, another
Average a
5,
point a
6?
game. At most, you need a point a game.
You,
You probably not even
yeah,
need that.
yeah, a win or two will be enough. They've got Derby at home, they've got Hull at home, Watford at home. They'll get another 1, 2 wins maybe from now till the end of the season. It's a really good side, I think. Pompey. They've definitely been the best performing, sort of consistently out of the 3 promoted sides, and
Absolutely.
they deserve to be in a position of sort of strength and power. Yeah, I
They're
really
another
like what
club,
they're
by the
doing.
way, who shouldn't have been in League One either. When you look at it, they're a club that should be quite attractive at this level.
They are. They seem like the sort of club who, first season back, set yourself in the championship, finish above 22nd, and I think they'll be a really strong commodity next season if they retain John Mousinho. That is.
Yeah, that's another
I think
concern for them.
I think if they, because I don't see this get talked about enough. They've completely changed how they play. Like, they average, I think, one of the lowest sort of possession numbers in the league. Not a bad thing. Just saying, not a bad thing. But still, they don't. They haven't. I don't know, phrase it. Don't hold on to the ball as much as they did in League One. They're not a possession-based team anymore. They're very front foot. They're very up and at them, very in your face, and teams have struggled to deal with that this season. They average 22nd most possession in the league, so third worst possession stats in the league. They don't hold on to the ball much. Very aggressive, very up and at them. Make Fratton Park horrendous to play at for opposition teams, and so many teams this season have found Fratton Park horrible to go to. They're ninth in the league for home games, and they're just a good side. They're a very solid championship side, and they've got a bit of Stardust and Murphy and Bishop and Lang. I know he's injured at the moment, and they've got some really good players. Ritchie experience, Hayden experience, Ballon Park experience. They're just a really good side.
Absolutely. And one of the things you mentioned that's really impressive is that with John Mousinho, if he's and if he's to have gone for a second, we'll have him back in a moment. But John Mousinho, if he's changed the way that Portsmouth play, then that's definitely a good thing because it shows that you're able to adapt and be big pragmatic to the fact that you're not going to be one of the favourites in the division anymore. Really, not for the moment anyway. But depends what happens with Portsmouth over the next few years. With Israel for Blackburn, I mean, obviously from a Blackburn point of view, it's not particularly good. But I think a lot of we know the problems there. There's another club that can compete with Cardiff and Sheffield for dodgy owners. The Venkies are just ridiculous. I'm sure Turf Morehouse TV. I'm sure he'll be absolutely buzzing with the idea of that for Blackburn. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to Blackburn, it's obviously not great for them. And I mean, thankfully they're on 52 points already. But losing John Eustace was just a big blow for them, I think. And even if Israel's not necessarily a bad manager, then sorry, not Israel, Ismail is not necessarily a bad manager. Um, it's just more the fact that the ownership problem behind the scenes. For Blackburn, really, for me, should be challenging to try and get back to the Premier League. But they're not going to do that either without exceptional recruitment and a good manager, without them getting poached, or whether the Venkies actually finally decide to bloody sell the club, basically. So, but from Pompey's point of view, absolutely fantastic result. Absolutely fantastic result. So, Portsmouth are on 45 points. And again, like Annie mentioned, the fixtures against teams and against sides around them, essentially the good thing for them is they must not lose games now for me as opposed to must win games, and that just relieves so much pressure. And even if you won one of the games, for example, against sides around them, then even if they just won one of the sides against sides around them, there we go, Annie is back. Even if we'll just sort of briefly mention that the fixtures you mentioned that Portsmouth have against sides around them, essentially all they need to do now is just not lose any of them, really. And even if they won one of them, that just relieves so much pressure for the other ones. But I'm with you. I'm really a big fan of the fact that if John Mousinho has proven he can be pragmatic, which is a really good trait. It's a really good trait to adapt to what league you're playing in. The only problem with that from a Pompey perspective is teams will go, hold on a moment, that guy Pompey's doing all right. They always
No,
just
yeah, no, I agree.
That's the only
if he get,
concern I'd have for Portsmouth. If he does so well, then he might
yeah,
get poached by someone higher up the pyramid.
would you be utterly surprised if he gets a parachute club next season?
No, I don't
Probably
think he
not
would leave
Southampton.
Pompey. I don't think I don't think he would get it just because I don't think he'd leave Pompey in the summer. But I wouldn't be totally beyond the realms of possibility either.
No, exactly. Yeah, I agree. I don't think he'd leave Pompey, but uh, he deserves he would deserve it if he did leave. That is, and get a top championship job. I think Pompey will be that in due course. To be honest, but uh, I wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't be utterly astonished if he is linked or does get a job or does get offered a job. But yeah, I'd expect him to stay at Pompey for sure.
Absolutely. So no, great win for Pompey. Obviously for Blackburn, we know their problems. The Venkies are just absolutely horrendous. So we'll see what happens in due course with them. For Ismail, for the rest of the season, I guess for Blackburn, a lot of their fans will probably feel the season can't come to an end soon enough. But we'll see what happens with that one. Right, the last game, obviously, we'll talk about, and I'll try and keep this short. And even for me, short will still be probably about 10 minutes long. So I apologise. But Sunderland got back to winning ways at the Stadium of Light. Trey Hume's first half goal, I don't know if you've seen the goal, Andy, but actually, for once, we actually were pretty good from a set piece. And going forward, I feel like we are probably one of the worst teams in the EFL from attacking set pieces point of view. But to very quickly touch on it, basically it was a short corner between Patrick Roberts and Romain Mundle. Mundle passes back to Roberts. Roberts pushing a beautiful cross towards the back post. Trey Hume, who I swear he must have the finish of a striker based on that. He must be finishing a lot in training. It's an absolutely fantastic finish from the back post on the left hand side. So no more than Sunderland deserved. I think we were really really good. We had chances to kill the game off and put them to bed. Isidore had a great chance in the second half, which their keeper manages to save. Pretty much, I think it was just save over the bar on for a corner. Millwall, I was quite surprised, and obviously, look, it's the Alex Neil derby because I was saying before that as Annie and everyone in the group chat we're in knows, I am not Alex Neil's biggest fan, but I have to admit I was expecting a bit more from Millwall. I thought they were going to offer a bit more of a test than what they ended up doing. I think the closest they probably came, I think they had a header straight at Patterson in the second half, and they had one which was a shot which was blocked pretty much easily when one of their players handballed it, by the way, and somehow the referee didn't give it. Sunderland had the chance in the last 5 minutes to seal it because we finally got a penalty at home, which was the first time since October 2023, we've been awarded a penalty at the Stadium of Light. But then we decided to put Luke O'Nien on it, which was a bit interesting. And safe to say he didn't score it. Thankfully, in the end, it didn't cost us. My one concern from a Sunderland perspective is in playoff tournament form, there's a good chance you might need a penalty shootout. And if we can't score penalties, then I'm a bit worried because we have had 5 penalties this season and we have missed 4 of them. Patrick Roberts missed at Sheffield United. Isidore obviously scored twice. Sorry, missed twice. I wish he scored twice. Missed twice away at Burnley, and then Luke O'Nien missed here against Millwall. In fairness to Roberts and particularly to Isidore, they've come up against, for me, probably the 2 best keepers in the Championship in James Trafford and Michael Cooper. Certainly in Isidore's case, it's disappointing to miss twice. You really probably should be scoring one of them, but look, we've got time. If you're going to miss penalties now, maybe we're doing the reverse psychology of being terrible now and we'll turn mint it from 12 yards in the playoffs. Who knows? We'll see what happens with that one. From Millwall's point of view, I'll quickly see what you think on the game, Andy, but from a Millwall point of view first, do you think... I don't want to say, because I know I'm going to contradict myself here. I'm not going to do full on 180 here. But I've said, obviously, if I'm going to say Norwich have a chance of playoffs still, I've got to say the same about Millwall. They're only 1 point behind them. But do you feel like Millwall, 6 points now? Are Millwall still in the conversation for playoffs for you, or do you think it's going to be a bridge too far for them?
I think when they lost against us at the Den, I thought that was when their season would probably just
fizzle out,
slide off a little bit. Because before that, they were on a pretty decent run, weren't they? And they've got some really tough fixtures still to go. They've got to play Sheffield United away. They've got to go Burnley away on last game of the season. They've got Middlesbrough. They've got Norwich. Got Blackburn. It's a really difficult game still to go for Millwall. That might be their undoing. Combine that with a bit of a sort of gap, bit of a gap to the top 6. I think that might just be too much for them. I think there's been some good signs by Alex Neil. They've got a younger squad. They've got good enough squad, some good foundations. I just don't think they've got enough for now to go on and get into the top 6.
No, I think I would probably agree with that. And I think certainly, take my feelings about Alex Neil for a side, I think he's one that I actually wouldn't be surprised if he did quite well next season for Millwall. It just depends on the recruitment in the summer. I think one of the things they kind of need to add a bit more is they need to add a bit more up top, I think. Because there are some good foundations there. I like the midfield, I think is decent. I think I like some of their defenders that they've got. Tanganga, of course, being one of the main ones who they signed from Tottenham. So I think there's...
Surely he won't be here next season. Surely.
Well, do you mean at Millwall or in the Championship?
Yeah, might be in the Championship, but I don't know if he's going to be at Millwall.
Yes, it depends. Though it depends if they show ambition in the summer within FFP restrictions, obviously, then he might think, well, okay, give them one more season and we'll see what happens with that. But he's their player now, so who knows? That's a saga for the summer. We'll see what happens with that one. Like I said, for Sunderland, we had to respond after getting battered at Coventry. And thankfully we have done that, and I've maintained all along now that I think the main thing for Sunderland over the next 7 games is just to try and get a steady run of form going. Not saying win all 7 games, although I wouldn't complain at that. That would be bloody lovely. But, I mean, even if you won 3 of them and drew a few and whatnot. And the thing is, we've still got to go to West Brom. We've still got to go to Bristol City. They're probably the 2 fixtures now that are the ones that, on paper at least anyway, look quite tricky. I would even go as far as say Oxford away might be, depending on what their situation is down the bottom. I think our home fixtures, which are Swansea, Blackburn and QPR, are games that you probably would need to be winning to set yourself up for the playoffs. But it's safe to say, I think with us, we've kind of reached that sort of... Alex Neil was right in one thing he said. We're kind of in that limbo state now where we know top 2's not happening. Although an Oxford fan did say to me, 9 points off second. Shut up. It's not happening. That ship sailed about 6 weeks ago. So we're not getting top 2. We're probably not going to jump out of the playoffs because I don't want to jinx anything. But 15 points, and I suppose Annie will probably turn around and go, oh yeah, you're only 15 points above 6th and 7th and 8th and only 13 points above 5th. So, I'm taking that into account. It's very unlikely we are going to miss out, but yeah. Good. It was important to win, and it was a deserved win, I think. But yeah, I think that's pretty much about it. I think we've gone through every fixture, obviously apart from Derby Preston, because of course they weren't playing each other. And I only took about probably 5 minutes as opposed to 10 talking about Sunderland. So that's a good start for me. Absolutely. Take the little things in life. No, Annie, thank you. Thanks very much for thanks very much for coming on. It's been a pretty decent weekend. Well, obviously, I know for you, Bristol City wise, probably not so much. But if it helps, Bristol Rovers lost for you again, so you can at least find some solace in that, I'm sure.
Normal weekend.
I was expecting you to go, no comment. Try and be Mr. Diplomatic on camera, but then we shall see. But no, thank you everyone who has been watching. I'm going to try and end this seamlessly and not look like a tit while doing it. But thanks very much for everyone who has watched, and we will catch you again next weekend to talk more about game week 40 in the Championship. Take care and bye for now.